And this one is dedicated to you.
Right.
Looking good, I said, as I watched the brother with his hand on his wife stand proud. The sister who shares with life, talking loud. Looking good, I said, as I watched the baby crawl to stand. And the old black woman whose chocolate body gave birth to a proud people from the motherland, whose hearts love so deeply, boom, 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 whose spirits last for eternity, my Lord, my God, my strength, whose voice shouts strength, determination, whose music is our soul, baby. You're looking so good to me as you wear your natural hair, your thick lips and your round, round hips, your struggle for unity, freedom, but most of all, your dignity.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sadikisha.
This is straight up out of Brooklyn. I'm Stella Winston. A while ago, I got a call from Taurus, who is a producer here at VCAT, to direct another producer's show. Her name is Sadikisha. And what a privilege and an honor was to direct her show, because it was beautiful. And my guest today, indeed, is Sadikisha. Welcome to Straight Up.
Thank you so much, Stella, for inviting me.
Yes. And I want to thank you right here on Straight Up for allowing me to direct your show, because it's a beautiful concept.
Well, the way you did the imagery and made it come back and forth, your talent was really great. I was the one who was privileged.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, let me just say for the record, your concept is where you have musicians in, and then you're actually on set and you're doing your art. You are indeed a visual artist, mm-hmm. and you've been a visual artist for a while, mm-hmm. right?
Yes.
So I love the concept of joining the two art forms. But first, let's talk about you as an artist, Sadikisha. Mm-hmm. Tell me how it began for you. When did you start doing art?
From when I was a little kid, when I was maybe about 5 years old, I had an uncle who used to sit and draw, and I used to think he was so talented. And then I would draw, and I said, "Can you help me figure out how to do this?" And, mm-hmm. He didn't really take it that serious. He didn't realize that was an impression that was really profound that he left me. And then when I was in elementary school, about the 3rd grade, that's when I decided, to be an artist. My 3rd grade teacher, she treated me very special. And when I did this cat, the whole class was like, "Oh, ooh, I like your cat, I like your cat." And she would give me the biggest piece of cake. And it was something I felt so proud of, because other people felt good about it, and it mm-hmm. built my self-esteem and made mm-hmm. me feel real proud, And I liked that feeling, and I always felt real special, and I felt that feeling that, I can do something good. I can do something beautiful that someone else likes, and it just, it's healing for me,
Now, on your show, you appear to be using charcoal. Do you,
it's pastel.
Pastels.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so you chose for that particular show to use black and white pastels.
Yes.
Right, but the work that I've seen of yours, like I have the calendar right here with some mm-hmm. of your work, is very colorful, very mm-hmm. beautiful. So, how did you make a decision for that particular show to use?
Well, I had to think about the timing, and I know colors, you have to think psychologically what colors you're going to put there. And I wanted to flow, and it really was about the musician and the relationship with the artist creating. I want to just mostly focus on capturing him. Can communicate through whatever medium, that we choose to share, and it could become something even more beautiful rather than always separate. Or you're the artist, or you're the musician, And it's all, to me, about preserving our culture, whatever medium you use. Like, for instance, filmmaking, like what you do. You telling a story, and the way you create your takes and your tapes and everything, that's like an art form to me. So some people think, oh, one medium, you're limited, I don't believe there should be boundaries in terms of how you say what you say. It's really your vision that really counts,
So in your vision for that particular show that I directed, you had the vision of Craig Harris. He was
I loved Craig Harris,
So he's a jazz trombonist.
Yes, and he's been there for me. I'm a cancer survivor, and I remember he had this play called God's Trombone, and he would make me come to see that play because it was very healing. I mean, the people sang, and they had a dancer, and I came to every show. He would let me go free at Aaron David Fisher Hall all the time. And I would be crying every time. The singing, it just was so healing.
So healing for you.
So I wanted to share his talent, with the Brooklyn art community. And when somebody shares something with you, you want to give it back.
I watched your first show. I think it was your first show that you did. And you sang a song that you used in the classroom. Can you share a little bit?
Yeah, well, this song, I always like
it. How did you use the song? And you sung on a record.
I always loved jazz, right? But I really didn't claim to be a singer. My mama, every time I sung, she used to tell me, do me a favor, write it down. So I was plucking on the piano a few tunes. It said and I wanted to sound like the jazz musician, all cool and everything. So I came up with skidoo-ba-doo, blah, blah, blip, skidoo-ba-doo, blah, blah, blip, skidoo-ba-doo, blah, blah, blip. Well, my name is Sadikisha, and I came to rap it to you. I'm one who's inspirational, one who'll make you move now. Hey, hey, skidoo-ba-doo, blah, blah, blip, skidoo-ba-doo, blah, blah, blip, skidoo-ba-doo, blah, blah, blip. Have you heard of Martin Luther King? Have you heard of Malcolm X? Have you heard of Marcus Garvey now? They're about family, our history, people that's until the African beat. Hey, skidoo-ba-doo, blah, blah, blip, skidoo-ba-doo, blah, blah, blip, skidoo-ba-doo, blah, blah, blip. Have you heard of Sarah Vaughan? Have you heard of Louis Armstrong? Have you heard of Bob Marley? Yeah. They made music to the jazzy beat like birds singing la-dee-da-dee-dee. Hey, hey, skidoo-ba-doo, blah, blah, blip, skidoo-ba-doo, blah, blah, blip, skidoo-ba-doo, blah, blah, blip. Contemporary. contemporary jazzy C. That's Kaya. My name is Kaya, not cauliflower, and I like to draw on a piece of paper. Peace. I'm out of here. So, I mean, that's how I describe my artwork,
Okay.
through that song. It's about culture,
And let's talk a little bit about your artwork. Like there's several pieces here, and I'll let you choose the piece that comes to mind to help describe what you do, or maybe choose a piece and help me to understand what your creative process was for that particular piece.
Well, an artist I love named Jacob Lawrence. His thing was always about builders, and I love that idea. And usually, sometimes he would use a builder in the background.
Right.
And when I think about the family, and the roots, when you build in a building, you have to start from the ground up. And when I think about the African American, Caribbean, African diaspora family. To me, that's the most important thing, because, we get part of who we are through our families, and sticking together is real important. And I'm not only talking about your immediate family, I'm talking about the whole African diaspora. So to me, in my art, a sense of love for family, community, that's basically.
So that's what comes through with. Is that
Each piece has a story.
Each piece has a story. So that was the story with this one. Now
For
there's
some of us, we don't have our mothers, we don't have our fathers, we don't have. But if you have someone in your life who's mentoring you or sharing their love with you, you always have to keep hope alive and circle yourself around something that you really need. Don't just give up.
So I noticed, like, I'm looking at
this one.
particular one, and then
Yeah,
there's
these
also,
two.
These two. There's the mother and child again.
Yes. I was an only child. I was my mother's only birth baby, and it seemed like the umbilical cord never broke, and that relationship, to be one who was taken care of, and then to turn around and take care of her,
Right.
was such a profound honor, And when I do images of mother and child, it's the bond and the connection and the transition between the two, and for me to be there for her, she's not with us now, but her spirit is, and she used to sit there and tell me every time she used to look at me, baby, I'm so happy I had you.
Wow.
That's
a great thing.
And that was all the joy. People say, oh, you're going to be blessed, because she was paralyzed, and I did everything, went to school, taught, and it was an honor, So when I think of a mother and a child's relationship, I think there's no other.
Right.
I just think that.
Now the one that you have
There's
two.
two,
You
yes.
have two. You have this one where she.
That's a
calls it
stained glass
The
one.
stained glass. So when you work in stained glass, it's a different process, of course. from
Yes.
When you work with.
I cut the glass, and when you looking forward to retirement, they have classes for $40, $20, and you just do your thing. But how I learned stained glass was, I was a finalist in a train station project, and I saw the fabrication process, and being an artist, you kind of want to know how to frame. So I was afraid of glass at first, and then a brother named, what's his name, God forbid, Ken Wright taught me how to do stained glass. He said, it's your friend, but you better not disrespect him, because it will cut you.
Make you
And
bleed.
I looked at it that way, and I've been safe. I have my suit on, my mask, I have everything on, my hands, because I don't want to get cut.
How long does it take to do a piece of stained
It takes me about a day, 2 days, or something like that, Because first you have to have the design in your mind. Once you have the design in your mind, the rest is not so hard.
Now, this mother and child is
That's
not black
one.
and white, but You chose 2 colors, and it's the
That's a linoleum cut.
Okay.
And that's like my signature little pose right here. You know, I've done it with lace. I've done it with stained glass. You know, it's just something about the touching of the child's head and the, you know, the meditation or the spiritual prayer that they do for each other. You know, that, and the sun is shining, you know, all down on them. It's almost like going to church, you know, the Madonna and Child.
Right,
you know?
and you have a few, you also have father and
Yeah,
child.
you know, a lot of times I did with mothers and childs, but I have a brother who was adopted into our family, and since he was 1 year old, 1.5, so he's like my brother anyway. And I never saw it from a man's perspective, and he had a baby, and he loved that baby so. So I was feeling what he was feeling, you know, and the baby basically saved his life, you know.
Really,
So,
by him having the baby, he got it together, became responsible. Now you also
he had something to live for,
Right.
you know.
you also have some church scenes in here. It appears that women are in church and they are.
That was Barbara Ann Tears' going away celebration, and I saw these 3 beautiful sisters, and they all had on white, and I just thought about sisterhood. You know, I think that's real important. A lot of us, we're into our own
Barbara
space.
Ann Tears. You mentioned Barbara Ann Tears.
Barbara Ann Tears.
Who is she?
Yes,
Who was
she was a founder of the National Theater of Harlem, the Black National Theater of Harlem, and I just chose that piece. Actually, Lynx bought that piece because it had to show relationships with people, sisterhood, you know. I did the piece just because I just was into sisterhood, you know, nothing more.
And a woman singing. It appears
That's
that she's in
another
church.
dear friend of mine,
Who is
Talivu Cumberbatch. When she sings like an angel, you know. And I just love her, you know.
Sadikisha, your show, the Sadikisha show, is here on BCAT, straight up out of Brooklyn as well as straight up. Okay. Now, your concept is wonderful. What do you envision for, let's say, the upcoming year? Do you have anything else in the making? What type of show do you intend on doing? I know you had mentioned that maybe some dancers coming in, maybe
It's
more
basically
musicians.
going to be visual arts based. You know, I want to also bring in people who help support the visual arts, like institutions and things like that. I'm really about educating artists that they can create and they can find funding, they can, you know, those kind of things. In terms of my cultural commitment, I would like to bring in dancers, and I would like to bring in singers. I'd like to bring in, you know, most of those are my friends, you know, so, or just the fact that I just love what they do, you know, and I want to be a part of it, you know, sketching them, you know. One thing I love about sketching, it's like making someone a star, you know. I remember a woman, she had cancer, breast cancer, and I did a portrait of her. And she, you know, I felt like she might have thought something was lost, and I told her how beautiful she was, you know. And she didn't realize it, because I did the portrait, and then she went to get it framed, and she didn't pay that much for it. She went to get it framed, somebody wanted to take it out of her hand and pay her $200, and I was like, I could have had that, but at least the message got across to her that she was beautiful. You know. To me, basically the basis of my show is to make people feel good, to make them shine, and to share their creativity, you know.
Now, in your first show, I saw you doing a self-portrait. You were doing. How do you do that? So you have. I didn't see in the show.
I had a little mirror. What happened with that show? It was my very first show, and I just didn't have a guest. Just the honest truth. And I had my easel, I had my paint, my stuff there, and I said, well, one of the security guys said, how you gonna have a show without a crew? I said, well, I'm here. And so I went in there, and a few people, tourists, helped me, and it was the other brother, I think Dan actually was there first, because I didn't know, and so I calmed down, I got my little mirror out, and I said, well, here we go. And he told me how I was just flowing so nicely, and I said I just do that as a way to express what I would be doing on my show.
Okay,
yeah.
So I was.
It was very freestyle.
I wanted to know. Well, how was she seeing?
I had a little mirror on the side, looking on the side.
Okay, now I know.
Yeah.
Now you had mentioned the struggle of artists a little bit. What has it been like for yourself and for your artist friends? What has been the struggle in
My
doing
thing
your
is,
art?
a lot of times people
doing
we could have chose any other career. We're smart people, and a lot of times people look at artists as like some people, the derelicts and bums of society. Just to be that raw. And to me, it hurts because we're here committing ourselves to our culture. If it wasn't for photographer's image of Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, and everything, you would know who these people, Marcus Garvey, you would know who these people, what they look like, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth. If it wasn't about some artists, they need to, if they're having a protest or if they need to have a graphic design or some kind of thing to help their movement come alive, because people are about visualizations. People can talk and say, hey, this is that and other, but visual things stick in your mind. Yeah. I just feel very passionate that artists deserve the respect of every other career. I've been in shows with doctors and lawyers and everything. They want to use the artists for their cultural awareness to their friends, but sometimes they don't treat the artists correctly. I've been to galleries and museums. Artists are a dime a dozen. They want you to compete against your peer. They don't really care about what you do sometimes. Only some, I'm not going to say everyone, but they need to be educated, and that's why I do my show, that artists really are deep people. They are some of the most giving people. When you asking for a donation for some charity affair, the artist is the first one there giving their art away, and they need to eat. Right. These people are creating not for crumbs or pennies. Why you got to make some of the artists feel like, oh, we got to beg for this? You should be paying. If you talk about artists giving back to the community, then give back to the artists. So that we can be celebrated.
So what do you advise for?
I'm sorry, I got real.
No. So now I can feel your passion. So what would you say to the non-artists? How would they support you? Buy your art. Buy pieces of art.
I feel like everyone's an artist personally.
But okay, the artist community needs to be supported
right.
financially.
I guess it's about being curious about art, and you got to start somewhere. It's like anybody could become a collector. It's not like you have to feel like you have to have $1 million or something. There's payment plans. There's, you know what I mean. I've seen people who can't afford art but love it so much. They payment plan for 6 months, really? But they got the thing paid for, I have a lot more respect for a person who working hard, don't have that much money, and love art that much to pay for it than someone who's rich, and they're like, oh, can I get it for a penny?
So what you're saying is that artists don't get paid what their art is worth a lot of times.
Sometimes I'd rather keep my work than for someone to to think that it's on a level of, or either give it to somebody than for somebody to try to jig me down to nothing, you know, because it's my choice. I'm retired.
Yes.
I can put all my art on my wall and be happy.
Now, do you collect other artists' art?
Yeah, sometimes.
Yeah,
Sometimes.
is there any-
Sometimes I just got, I know I can't afford it, but sometimes I have to. Like, I have a Tom Feelings. I have Art O'Neill's. I have Ken Wright. I have Laura James. I have a good collection. And sometimes it's an exchange thing because we're artists. So it's a little, I have a Ted Gunn, you know, so I have a nice collection.
When's the best time for you to do your art? When's the best time for you to do your art?
To me, that's like whenever you feel it, you know. I mean, sometimes I wake up in the morning and I want to create. Sometimes it's late at night. So it's just when the spirit hits you.
Well, thank you for sharing your beautiful art here on Straight Up.
Yeah, thanks. Straight up.
Yes, Sadikisha. And what's the song again? Let me see if I can get it.
Skidoobity blop blop.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your song and your enthusiasm for what you do, your artwork.
Thank you.
Continue with your show. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for watching.